Hello! In this video I'll be reviewing the second issue of The Audient Void, a journal of weird fiction and dark fantasy made by Mr. Obadiah Baird. A few weeks ago I did a review of the first issue of the same zine, this one right here. So, since then I've heard people say that the second issue is even better than the first one, and after reading it, I have to say they weren't wrong at all. So, compared to the first issue, the layouts are very similar, the fonts are the same, the cover picture is different, expectedly, and what I especially noticed about this second issue is that it's significantly thicker than the first one. It has like 10 more pages or so. The first thing I'd like to comment on about this second issue is the cover image. When I looked at this picture after reading the zine, I realized it contained certain symbols from some particular contents of the zine. It's like an abstract illustration of multiple parts of the zine. It's really cool. So, just like the first issue, this little book starts with a very nice abstract image here. What I especially liked about this picture is that when you first look at it, you see only one living figure on it, this man right here, but if you look at the picture for a longer time, you start noticing more figures. It's really cool and it looks really nice. So let's see. This zine, just like the previous issue, starts with this introduction text written by Mr. Baird himself. It's called From the Void, just like in the previous issue. And it's once again a very nice introduction to the zine. While reading it, one can really feel Mr. Baird's enthusiasm and happiness with his work on the Audient Void. He mainly describes some very positive experiences he has had with social media, and he provides once again very nice expressions of gratitude to everyone who has supported the Audient Void, and by the end of the introduction, he introduces the reader to the short stories in this zine and to this column right here called You Old Lemurian by Mr. David Barker. So, in the column, we have Mr. Barker expressing once again his quite impressive enthusiasm for H.P. Lovecraft's work. He provides an insight on a fun publication called The Lovecrafter, which he edited and published one issue of. We get to know a bit about the history of the Lovecrafter and about some people who have been involved with it. And the way Mr. Barker describes some of his experiences, it really shows how great his enthusiasm for H.P. Lovecraft's work is. It's really cool. And also, at the end of this column, we have this quite interesting little cycle of limericks he wrote called Junk from Sluggish, a cycle of horrid fantasy limericks. What a clever usage of H.P. Lovecraft's initials. So these limericks were also cool. So this new this new issue of this column, You Old Lemurian, was really nice, just like in the previous issue. Mr. Barker's enthusiasm for H.P. Lovecraft's work is really impressive. Well, I'd like to move now to the first poem in this zine, this one here called The Jack of Cats, written by Adam Bolivar. One of the first things I noticed about this poem, which is very interesting, is that it's actually a sequel to the same writer's poem called The King of Cats, which was included in the previous issue of The Audient Void. It's a very interesting poem. It contains some creative symbolism, and also, like I said, I was quite intrigued when I realized it was a sequel to a poem I previously read, so I wonder if we may be getting a third one someday, maybe in the next issue of The Audient Void. It's really cool. Then we have the first story in this zine called That Particular Frustration, written by Adam Gallardo. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. So, the story comes with this very cool and intriguing picture right here. I must say, when I saw this picture, I immediately became curious and excited about starting to read this story to find out what this illustration is about. So, the story is much longer than the ones in the previous issue of this zine, and it's a very good story. In my opinion, generally, a horror story can be very impactful if it contains some elements of our casual daily life and incorporates them in a scary plot, and this story does a very good job at that. And also, Mr. Gallardo writes very good descriptions of the surroundings where the story takes place. It's a very interesting part of the story. It makes it really atmospheric. It's really good. I really liked it. So let's see. Then we have another poem right here called Blind Dragon, written by Jessica Amanda Salmonson. It's actually a religion-themed poem, and I must say it's a surprisingly dark one. It kind of describes the feelings of helplessness and fear, which is something I wouldn't generally expect in a religion-themed poem. It's quite well written, in my opinion. Then we have a poem called The White Silk, written by Don Webb. This poem is an intriguingly mysterious one. It describes a mystery which is left up to the reader's interpretation without being clearly resolved in the poem. It's very creative and very nicely written, in my opinion.